Okay, a lot of things are going wrong. Tripod, my battery's died, my microphone's not working, but we're making this happen. If you love to travel as much as I do, then you've probably been watching and waiting and wishing for the day that you can board an international flight again. And finally, distribution of the coronavirus vaccines is giving us hope that international travel can return to some sense of normalcy sometime soon. But if you clicked on this video, you probably have another question in mind, and that is if you'll need one of these vaccine passports in order to travel abroad. Coincidentally, I had the same question, so I went out and did the research, and I have all the answers for you in this video. You'll learn what this vaccine passport is and who will require them. Governments, airlines, airports, cruise ships, events venues. Also, I'm curious to hear what you think about these vaccine passports. Do you think that they should be required for travel or for society in general? And do you have any concerns as they relate to privacy or even social equality and discrimination around the world? Let me know in the comments below and let's get into it. First things first, what is an immunity passport? So a health passport is basically a digital ID card. It's an app that you can store on your phone where you can upload your personal health data. So far, some of these health apps are available now, but they only allow you to do things like upload a positive or negative COVID-19 result, or find testing centers, or get information on countries' entry requirements, quarantine requirements, things like that. But very soon, possibly by the time you watch this video, they will also have the ability to upload your immunization status if you have received the coronavirus vaccine. So these developers are already testing ways for the app to turn either red if you haven't been vaccinated or green if you have been vaccinated. And they will be distributing this technology to private companies, to airports and airlines, to governments, and even to event venues like sports stadiums, concert halls, theaters, things like that. The first ones on the market include the IATA Travel Pass, the Clear Health Pass, the IBM Digital Health Pass, and what's called the Common Pass, developed by the World Economic Forum. You'll also start to see more and more regional health passes like the AOK Pass that is used in a travel corridor between Abu Dhabi and Pakistan. And for those of you worried that you or your loved ones don't have a smartphone, not to worry, because paper copies of immunization certificates will also be accepted, and there will also be a kind of smart card that looks like either a Metro Pass or a credit card that you can use instead of the app. So the big question is, when will you need to use this immunity passport? Which countries will require it? Well, the answer is that some definitely will and some won't. One of the first countries to announce that they will definitely be requiring coronavirus immunization for entry is Australia. Now, it's important to note that there's already a precedent for requiring immunizations to enter a foreign country. We've seen this with the yellow fever vaccine and also with the polio vaccine. Australia, for example, requires travelers from certain African countries and also Central and South American countries to show proof of having a yellow fever vaccine, which is an immunization for life, before entering Australia. There will be a lot of countries that follow Australia's path, but there will also be many that won't. I think that the countries that have had the strictest travel and entry requirements in 2020 will require the COVID-19 vaccine. So this includes countries like Australia, New Zealand, and also many countries in Asia, most likely, which have been sealed off for much of the previous year, and probably some South American countries like Argentina, which has also been closed to non-essential travelers since March of 2020. We might also see Canada require this, and also smaller countries with more fragile infrastructure and more vulnerable healthcare systems. So especially countries in the South Pacific and possibly in the Caribbean. There's no word exactly yet on which European countries, if any, or which African and Middle Eastern countries will definitely require the vaccine. So we'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Who won't require it? Well, I think it will be most of the countries that have been pretty much wide open since March of 2020. So this includes countries like Mexico, Brazil, Belarus, Albania, Croatia, Turkey, and even countries like the UK that have been open but with testing and quarantine requirements. And also the US probably won't either. So you can check out which countries have been open for travel in one of the many videos here on my channel. Obviously, pretty much every country has suffered economically during the COVID-19 pandemic. So in my opinion, I think it's going to be really difficult for most countries to require proof of vaccination for entry. Not only could it be potentially years before everybody even has access to a COVID vaccine, but also countries' governments are going to be feeling a lot of pressure from tourism operators and travel companies and lobbyists who really want things to get back to normal. Even very technologically advanced countries like Taiwan, the officials there have said that even though the idea of an immunity passport sounds good in theory, it would be really difficult in practicality for them to implement. So it's possible that countries want to require immunization, but just won't do it because of all the logistics. So what about airports and airlines? Well, legal experts have said that they expect airlines to be some of the first private companies to require proof of vaccination. Also, even though a lot of airlines might require immunizations, that doesn't necessarily mean that the entire travel industry is on board. The director of the Travel Trade Association, IATA, has said that he thinks that testing is more important than vaccinations. And there are plenty of other reps throughout the travel industry that are afraid that a mandatory widespread vaccine could negatively impact travel in the same way that the quarantines and lockdowns have. I think 2020 has shown that some countries were able to safely reopen for travel without a major spike in cases. So I think that has set the precedent and the option for countries to say, okay, we won't require the immunity passport. If you have it, it's a plus, but we will require either PCR testing, a quarantine requirement, or both. So basically, opinions are split throughout the travel industry, and I think we will see a split decision when it comes to which countries and which companies require this immunity passport. One thing that could be a bit risky is that even if you're able to travel internationally without getting the immunization, there will be a chance that you won't be able to participate in as many activities once you arrive to a country. So let's say you're going to a foreign country to go to a sporting event or a concert. It's possible that you won't need the immunity passport to get into the country, but you will need it to be able to get into the event. So that's also something to keep in mind. Cruise ships have not said a word yet as to whether they will be requiring this immunity passport, but it could still be another year at least before their ships can set sail again. So I think that they will be waiting until the last minute and really analyzing what happens in other countries and with other travel companies before they make a decision. But my prediction is that they will end up requiring the immunization just because it's really hard to quarantine on a cruise ship. So even if you tested negative for COVID-19 before boarding, if you tested positive after the fact, that would present a lot of problems. If you've been feeling a little bit down after hearing this news, then don't worry, because at the end of the day, these governments and tourism operators and airlines and agencies, they want you to travel again. And so they are going to be doing everything in their power to make that happen. So they want to remove all the friction to make it safer and easier and faster for you to get back out there. forecasts show that it could be until 2024 before airlines crawl their way back to 2019 passenger levels. So it's going to be a long road to recovery, and they need your help to make it happen. So what do you think after watching this video? Will you be downloading one of these digital health apps or getting your coronavirus immunity passport anytime soon? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can check out one of my other travel videos or cost of living guides in one of these thumbnails, and see you in the next video.